Good morning, my neighbors!
Ladies and gents, it's Sunday, and it's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Sunday Express this morning, who in typical riddled with dementia fashion are warning that a slight adjustment to the UK smoking legislation could result in an explosion of violence. That's right, guys. You and me and sane people who are not habitually consuming mercury, we thought that a slight tightening of smoking law by way of, prohibiting people from smoking at festivals or, you're no longer allowed to smoke in a pub beer garden. We thought that at worst, that might elicit the odd, ironically, a huff and a puff. Can't believe I'm not allowed a ciggy here. We thought that the worst that you would get off the back of this new policy, that it's not even law yet, right? It's just being discussed. We thought that the worst that we would get would be like your mate Dave going like, can't do anything in this country anymore. Bloody nanny state. Interestingly, the Daves and the Garys never seemed to box everything up as nanny state when it was their favoured Tory government ostensibly banning protest because adversarial protests were deemed noisy and annoying. Anyway, now it's nanny state. Now we assume that they will voice their disapproval. That was the worst that we thought we could expect off the back of this, but not in Sunday Express land. Absolutely not. Because in Sunday Express land, this could actually sow the seeds of civil unrest. I mean, yeah, if people are willing to start some sort of race war or civil war off the back of internet disinformation, off the back of abject nonsense, imagine what they'd be willing to do in the real world if you take that cigarette out of their mouths. Meanwhile, over to the Mail on Sunday, Prince Harry is rumoured to be talking to his royal aides and asking them for help and guidance with a view to plotting his return from what the Mail describes as exile. Is it exile? Really? Is it? I always think of exile as like somebody leaving to another country where there's no extradition treaty, and then you can't drag them back to face justice. It brings connotations of criminal activity, of shame, doesn't it? Prince Harry is engaging with his royal aides to see if they can chart some sort of course back for him following his myriad betrayals, disappointments and public shames that make his father cry. Is he though? I mean, do we really think Prince Harry actually wants to come back to the royal family, to frontline royal duties? I'm not sure that he does. I mean, Prince Harry's life at the moment extends to making his own money. He doesn't have to deal with the royal press and their paparazzi following him around so much. It's nicer weather in California, and California being the liberal enclave that it is, he could probably even smoke a doobie in the beer garden there. But just think for a minute, like for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to bring their family, their children back to the UK, to plot a course back. Like, what would that have to look like? He'd have to strike a deal with the press to leave his children alone, because that is his, thing, right? He doesn't want his kids to be attacked or traumatized by the tabloids, and that's not going to happen. He would also have to admit that he was wrong about everything, all of those aspersions that he cast on the royal family as the beneficiaries of institutional racism that he and Meghan talked about in their documentary. He would have to go, I was completely wrong about that. I'm really, really, really sorry. But he's not going to do that. Let's just be real about this. He'd probably have to give up all of his legal cases, against the newspaper proprietors and all of that stuff. And that is his passion. That's his whole thing. This is what gets, what possible draw could they have to bring him back to the... I'm actually really missing the way that my life was in England. Are you though? Really? No, not in the slightest.
Prince Andrew's a nonce-burger.
Next to the Observer now, who warned that most people, when engaging with the NHS, begrudgingly accept that queues are so long they will probably have to go private. Yep, this is probably accurate. I mean, speaking from personal experience, my dad has got a hernia that causes him a huge amount of discomfort. And he's been on the waiting list, waiting for an operation for this thing. And he's got to the top of the waiting list. It's his turn next. But you know why? It hasn't come out yet. He's been booked in 4 times. 4 separate times. And each time they've cancelled last minute because the doctor called in sick because they were overworked, or there was a strike on, or the previous surgery overran and they don't have backup staff. Like, the Tories bankrupted this country. They decimated the public services to such an extent that people like my dad now are just sat there like, I honestly don't know, like, when this is coming. Like, it's so stressful. Honestly, I'm gonna need a cigarette now.
What are you doing?
You
Can he smoke in here? Is it?
Oh, for the love of... Finally, to the Sunday Telegraph, with what could reasonably be interpreted as a sister story to the observers on the NHS. Because the Telegraph are reporting that the entire criminal justice system is in disarray. So says that industry's watchdog. Everything from the police not having sufficient numbers of holding cells to the judiciary running out of judges, or lawyers in the Crown Prosecution Service, or defence lawyers, like barristers that are allocated to you if you can't afford to have legal representation. It's not enough for them either. All of our prisons are over capacity. Probation officers can no longer handle their caseloads. Like, everything from your first arrest to the cell to the time that you spend in prison to when you come out on probation, every single juncture of the criminal justice system is no longer fit for purpose. Which is why you've got people like Yvette Cooper, Angela Rayner, Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, everybody saying, like, look, things are going to get worse before they get better. That is just the state of play. We're going to have to raise taxes to pay money into these public services to improve them with, like, just... Look at the state of everything that we've been left with. Things are going to get worse. They're going to deteriorate before you start to see any improvement. In fact, that is also why we are letting out murderers and rapists early. Things are going to get worse before you see any improvement. That's why we're letting out paedophiles. And the guy that burgled your house on Christmas Eve and punched your wife in the face, we're letting him out early too. You're welcome. Things are going to get worse before they get better. How much better are they going to get, though, Keir? Oh, well, I mean, it's early days, guys. Oh, great. Okay. So things are just going to get worse. Is what we're saying. I mean, has anybody got the numbers for Prince Harry's royal aides? Could they help me chart a course out of here? Is that something that they do? Because I'm going to be honest with you, if snatching a cigarette out of someone's mouth in a pub beer garden, if that's enough to spark more civil unrest, I don't think I still want to be here if a few murderers and rapists are thrown into the mix too. Peace.
From your neck to your ankles, your black ball screaming booze down the damn halls and crank calls. Reviews and those rants falls, my man brawls. Your straw man, your ball games, it's your dad's balls. All day, every day, your boy's killing it. Quick dealing the sick shit, straight illin' it. Slick figure in politics, for the thrill of it. Pillin' beer, swillin', going ape on gorilla shit.